Hey guys, and welcome to the second episode of the Value of the Phoenix podcast. My name is Patrice, and I hope that everyone is doing well. So, for today's episode, we are going to be talking about desperate energy. So, this topic, being desperate energy, I feel like sometimes can cause people offense because it is a lot easier to pick out, or it is a lot easier to see desperation or desperate energy in other people, and sometimes it can be really difficult to see that within ourselves. Because if I was to say to someone, I think that you might be in desperate energy, when that person does have that lack mindset, it can feel as though that's their only option. It can feel as though that's their only choice. And so if you were to say that to them, it's almost like you're saying to them that, they're a loser, or they're not worthy, they're this, they're that. And so that's why I feel like some people can get really offended by it. As with anything, when it comes to your self-concept, it does take a lot of self-awareness to really look at your limiting beliefs and become aware of, the part that you play in the, interactions that you have, whether it be with yourself, whether it be with other people, or whether it be with just how you live your day-to-day life. It takes a lot of awareness to really look at the negative parts of yourself. And so when it comes to desperate energy, I feel like it can be very, very triggering for people. But I do believe it is something that we really need to discuss, that we really need to look at, especially when it comes to relationships. And so this is why I wanted to create this episode. So let's jump straight in. So, are you in desperate energy? This is a really important question to ask yourself on your self-concept journey, because it will really open your eyes to your behavior, your actions, your choices. It will really make you aware of whether you have a lack mindset or not. And ultimately, that is what being in desperate energy boils down to. You have a lack mindset. You are desperate because you feel as though it's never going to come back around. You're never going to experience this again. You don't feel like you're worthy of it. So if it does come around, you want to hold on to it as tight as you possibly can. There's so many reasons why you could be in desperate energy. So let's take a look at what desperate energy actually looks like, because sometimes, as I said, it's really easy to pinpoint it in other people, but when it comes to yourself, you might not be that aware. So I think the main thing that can give away that someone is in desperate energy is when they are a people pleaser. Now, there has been so much discourse online about being a people pleaser, the adverse effects that it can have on you, the detrimental effects it can have. And people pleasing is really one of the easiest ways to spot whether someone is in desperate energy. You really want people to like you, you want people to love you, you want people to enjoy being around you, but you do that to the detriment of your own happiness, of your own authenticity, of your own desires and wants. You essentially lose yourself because you are so focused on everyone else except yourself. And if you are someone that is on a self-concept journey, which, as we know, self-concept journey is about you, it's not going to work when you are on a self-concept journey and you are also a people pleaser. The two do not work together. They clash. And so in order to improve yourself on your self-concept journey, you do need to learn about your people-pleasing tendencies and why they are there, and what you can do to stop being a people pleaser. A lot of desperate energy really looks quite similar. So as we mentioned, people pleasing, but then there's also codependency, which when it's spoken about online, it is more so to do with relationships. But I also do feel like you can be codependent on your friends, you can be codependent on your family, maybe your parents, for example. You can be codependent with any kind of relationship that you are in. It doesn't have to just be a romantic relationship. And again, this is very similar to people pleasing in the sense that you don't want to be by yourself, you don't want to do things by yourself, you kind of don't want to have your own individualism, and therefore you become so dependent on other people because you don't trust yourself, don't trust the decisions that you're making in your life, and ultimately you kind of just want to give up your power to other people. You want someone else to make all of your decisions in your life. And sadly, again, as I mentioned before, when you are on a self-concept journey, it is about you. It is not about other people. So the unlearning of people pleasing, the unlearning of codependency is very, very important on a self-concept journey. Another way is when you are too agreeable. And some people might view being too agreeable as a good thing, but it's actually a bad thing. And the reason for that is when you are too agreeable, it actually invites in people who will essentially take advantage of you. And the reason for that is because once people see that you are always willing to do exactly what they want to do, they will essentially view you as prey, easy prey that they can work around, easy prey that they can always get their way with. So I can remember there was a guy that I was dating, and we were just talking about like qualities about ourselves and things like that. And I remember him saying that he's quite an agreeable person. And when I asked him to explain what he meant, he basically said that, like, when he's going out with his friends, for example, if everyone's got differing views, he will always just go with the majority because he doesn't want to come across as like causing an issue or wanting to do something that everyone else doesn't want to do, for example. And when he explained it to me, he explained it in a way that he worded it to make it seem as though that was a good thing. And this is not me saying that, there aren't going to be times in life where you do just have to be that little bit agreeable. Like, I'm not saying that every single situation that you're in life, you need to always say, no, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do this. I want it my way. That's never going to work. That is not a good way to live. If you are someone that is constantly willing to just let other people do what they always want to do all of the time, it could show that you are in desperate energy because you're not actually willing to put your value, put your input into a situation. You would rather just not deal with it. And this leads to my next point, which is putting other people's needs before your own, but at the detriment of yourself. A lot of people get confused when, if let's say you're in a relationship, for example, and it comes to compromising on certain things, a lot of people can get confused with that because they may feel as though they are compromising, but what it may be, especially if you have, people pleasing tendencies, it may actually be that you're not compromising, you're actually just putting other people's needs before your own and to the detriment of yourself. So the reason why I have to highlight that you're doing this to the detriment of yourself is because there are going to be times in life where you do need to put others before you. And, the main example of that for me personally is when you have children. So in that case, that's not to the detriment of yourself because you are there to help your children. You are there to, raise your children. But when it comes to things like relationships, for example, and you are just so willing to go with that other person's views all of the time, even though deep down you really don't want to do it, you really want to give your opinion, but you're almost scared to do that, it could be that that is because you are in desperate energy. And when it comes to desperate energy, it's because you don't want to, cause a scene. You don't want to stir up drama. But what you're actually doing is stopping yourself from being your authentic self. So, why should you not want to be in desperate energy? I know that this is probably a bit of a weird question, but sometimes I feel like us as humans, we need to see the full picture to really understand. So, why should you not want to be in desperate energy? Reason number one, desperate energy a lot of the time comes from a lack mindset. And a lack mindset is when you have this idea in your mind that the things that you want or the things that you desire, you can't have them. And so you will essentially hold on to anything that you could possibly find that could potentially resemble what it is that you want because you're actually scared that you're never going to get what you want. Another reason why you don't want to be in desperate energy is because when you are in that state of mind, you will essentially lose yourself. When you are so engrossed in what other people are doing and not engrossed in what you are doing and what you want out of your own life, you will lose yourself. You will lose your authenticity. You will essentially forget who you are as a person because you are so focused on everyone else. When you are a people pleaser, when you are in desperate energy, you are basically giving away your own power. This leads to my next point, which is that when you're in desperate energy, it actually just doesn't feel nice. It does not feel nice. And do not let anyone fool you by telling you that, oh, you need to chase after this and you need to do that. Don't get me wrong, you need to work towards things, but there's a difference between working towards something and chasing something. Because as we know, when you chase things, what does it look like when you are, chasing something? That thing is running away from you. It's almost repelled by your chasing energy. And so when you are in that desperate state, it doesn't feel nice because it will always feel like you are running after someone else. You will never feel fulfilled because you're constantly putting you onto someone else. And one thing that I've realized, especially when it comes to relationships and being in desperate energy, is that it's not fair on that other person. You putting all of that onus on that person is actually not fair on them. And I think that's where the whole, repelling part of it comes into play. And a lot of people just don't realize how their desperate energy can feel really overwhelming. And like I said, it is very easy to point out, desperation in other people. And sometimes it's hard for us to notice when we are the ones that are being desperate. And another reason why you don't want to be in desperate energy is because it stops you from being in receiving energy. It stops you from actually receiving the things that you want because you are chasing them so much to the point where they are actually just running away from you. When you are in receiving energy, when you have an abundance mindset, it allows things to flow to you. It allows things to come towards you. Things are being pulled towards you when you have an abundance mindset because you just know that there is just a whole abundance of everything that you want. It is possible. It can be yours. You can have all that you desire. But when you are in desperate energy, you are pushing all of those things away from you. You are repelling those things away from you. And that is why it is so important on a self-concept journey to have that abundance mindset. A lot of people are in desperate energy in their love life. Don't get me wrong, there are other areas of life that people can, be in desperate energy. But one thing that I have noticed just based off of people that I've spoken to or I've interacted with or just witnessed like online and things like that is that it is mainly when it comes to your love life and when it comes to relationships. So one of the main reasons why people struggle in their romantic life or in their dating life, in their single life, whatever it may be in relation to, love and romance, is because they are in desperate energy. They do not feel fulfilled within themselves. So people can usually pick up on your desperate energy because of your words, your actions, how you're behaving, and also your impatience. Because when you are in desperate energy, you lack patience rather than realizing that it is already yours. But when it comes to manifestation, you obviously just have to wait for it to come to fruition. A lot of people don't like having to wait for things, i.e., why they are in desperate energy. They are concerned, they are worried that what they want is going to run away from them. So when it comes to being in desperate energy, it is always linked to your limiting beliefs. And this is why I always say it is so important to know what your limiting beliefs are and actively work on them so that you can step out of desperate energy, so that you can really find yourself on your self-concept journey. If you don't know what your limiting beliefs are, it's going to be really difficult for you to move forward in your self-concept journey, because you won't really know what it is that you actually need to work on. So on our website, we do have a guide on there on how to identify and challenge your limiting beliefs. So definitely make sure that you check that out. So the main limiting beliefs that I have personally come across when I've dealt with clients who have desperate energy is that they have limiting beliefs that they are unlovable, that they are not worthy, that they are not good enough, and also that they are not chosen. And these kind of limiting beliefs will really hold you back in your love life, because you will constantly feel as though you are not good enough, and therefore your actions, your behavior will prove that in the relationship. Because as we know, our brain is always trying to prove us right. That is what it wants to do. So if you have a dominant belief that you are not good enough or that you're not a lovable person, guess what your brain is going to try and prove you right on when you get into a relationship? Oh, okay, she doesn't think she's worthy. Let me see how I can prove that to her in her day-to-day life. Oh, she doesn't think she's good enough. Let me see how I can show her that she's not good enough in her day-to-day life. That is what your brain does. That is why it is key to know what your limiting beliefs are and actively work on them. So I want to delve a little bit deeper now when it comes to desperate energy in relationships, because sometimes I think that a lot of people don't realize that being in desperate energy, it makes you more vulnerable to people who actually want to take advantage of you. When you are in desperate energy, you will pick up, you will hold on to anything that you possibly can, even if that thing is not good for you, because you are actually scared that you're never going to receive what it is that you truly desire. And like I said, this can be almost like an open invite for people who don't want to do you well, for people who are abusers, for narcissists, and just for people that just don't want to treat you in a nice way. So sadly, people like that and people in desperate energy are a match made in heaven. And the reason for that is because of that desperate energy. When you are desperate, you are more likely to want things to progress quickly. And the reason for that is because you want things to jump from, okay, I like you, to, oh, I love you and I want to give you the world and I want to do this and I want to do that, because you want to fulfill that deep desire that you have in you to prove to yourself that you are lovable. And guess who also wants to do that as well? The narcissists, the abusers, the people who don't want to treat you right. They want things to progress quickly as well, because they want to trick you. They want to give you this false sense of love, this false sense of hope. They want essentially the same thing as you do, but for different reasons. Another thing is that you are less likely to pay attention to red flags. When you are desperate, even though you could see a red flag shining right in front of your face, because you are so desperate and so longing for that love, you are more likely to ignore the red flags. And again, this is to the detriment of yourself. You're more likely to be forgiving as well. So when you do come across those red flags, or when you do come across bad behavior or behavior that you just feel like, this isn't necessarily right, you are more likely to be forgiving of that behavior, because again, you are wanting to prove to yourself that you are lovable, that you are worthy, and that you can have this love. And because you are in that lack mindset, again, you will just take whatever it is that you can find, even if it's not necessarily treating you in the way that you want to be treated. And another thing is, you are less likely to advocate for yourself. You are less likely to put forward what you want out of the relationship, what you need out of the relationship, for fear of losing that person. As we know, all limiting beliefs, they are all fear-based. So you're scared that you are going to lose this person, which essentially will prove to you once again that you, quote unquote, are unlovable and not good enough and not worthy. Okay, so now that we know about desperate energy and what it looks like, we kind of need to figure out what we can do to step out of desperate energy. It's not fun, it's not nice, and you know deep down that you are ready for change. So what can you do? You can work on your self-concept. This is why the value of the Phoenix was created, because I came across self-concept and it made me realize just how much my limiting beliefs were running the show in the back of my mind, and I didn't even realize it. I didn't understand why I was making the same decisions that I was making over and over again and expecting different results. Why, there's certain people in life who basically end up dating the same person over and over again, but just in a different body. And that is because of your self-concept, your idea of yourself, and those very, very annoying limiting beliefs that we all have. We all have limiting beliefs. They might be different in terms of what they are, but we all have those limiting beliefs. And as I said before, they are all fear-based. So by working on your self-concept, you allow yourself to work on those limiting beliefs. You give yourself the opportunity to learn about yourself. You give yourself the opportunity to try for yourself. You give yourself the opportunity to try again. Another way that you can really work on getting out of desperate energy is to start trusting yourself more. When you don't trust yourself and you don't trust your decision making or your choices or your actions, you are more likely to do things that you actually don't want to do. You are more likely to enter into situations that are really going to be to your detriment. And it is because you are scared of actually listening to yourself. So again, one of the ways that you can work on that is through working on your self-concept. Another way that you can step out of desperate energy is for you to let go of this idea that someone is coming to save you. And don't get me wrong, I had this idea in my head as well. I just imagined this Prince Charming that was going to come along and he was going to rescue me and blah, blah, blah. But essentially, only you can rescue you. Until you give yourself that fulfillment, you are not going to be able to get that from anyone else. It all starts with you. I can remember reading a book and it literally said, no one is coming to save you. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you very much. But I needed that wake-up call. I needed to know that it's down to me. I have the power. I can make the changes in my life that I want to see. I have to save myself. And one of the things that I really need to highlight is, this whole idea that, you attract who you are. That is in fact wrong. You don't attract who you are. You attract what you think that you deserve. It goes back to your limiting beliefs, and we can link this to desperate energy again. If you think that you are an unlovable person, you will think that that is what you deserve. You will think that you deserve to be unloved, unappreciated, not taken care of. And therefore, that is what you will put out into the world. That is what you will end up attracting. And the funny thing is that sometimes you don't even realize it. And this is the thing about limiting beliefs that I think a lot of people may not understand. Just because you say that you love yourself, just because you vocalize that you love yourself, doesn't mean that you don't have a limiting belief that you are unlovable. I can sit here, I can say, well, I do love myself. But if I'm making decisions that prove that I don't love myself, then I don't love myself, So that's why, again, I always say to you, work on your limiting beliefs, figure out what your limiting beliefs are. That will be the indicator for you. And it's going to be difficult because you are going to have to ask yourself some, hard questions. And I genuinely do think that that is why a lot of people shy away from working on their self-concept, from doing the work, because it's a lot. It is a lot to take in when you realize, wow, these limiting beliefs have really been holding me back from having the life that I truly want. It can be a lot to know that you self-sabotaged, or that, the part that you played in your adult years. It can be really difficult to kind of accept that. But if you don't do that, it's going to be really difficult for you to move forward in your self-concept journey. So I would please urge you, if you are unsure, it's time to figure out your limiting beliefs. It's time to actively know all of the negative dominant beliefs that you hold. And trust me, there may be some that actually shock you, because you'll be like, wow, I didn't even realize that. And that's the thing, a lot of the time we don't actually realize what our limiting beliefs are, and it's quite scary to know that they are literally running the show and you don't have a clue about them. So yeah, please, please, please work on your limiting beliefs. So guys, please leave me any comments or any questions that you may have about this, because I know that this is quite a broad topic and I want to be able to, you know, give you guys the best advice that I possibly can. So yeah, make sure that you do leave a comment if you do have any questions. But guys, I hope that you have learned something. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.